Hi everybody, can you hear me? Oh, there it is, it clicked in, all right. We're gonna go ahead and get started. If you want to mind finding a seat. But if you want to, you can get food in the back. There's always time for snacks. So food in the back, drinks in the back if you so choose, if you're hungry. Okay, welcome everybody. This is yet another meeting for the 1917 East 3rd Ave Tri-County Head Start project. My name is Clancy Nixon. I think I've met most of you coming in. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the City of Durango. Before we get started and get too far into the presentation, I did want to let you know of a couple of things. Chadwick, you want to raise your hand over there? That's Chadwick. He's here to provide interpretation if anybody needs it. It didn't seem like anybody coming in the door did need that. But as always in our public meetings, at least at this point, we are always looking to do better with our language justice efforts. And so he's here to provide Spanish interpretation if anybody was to need it. We also have childcare available this evening. I think that's being utilized, but if you have anybody that's coming We have Harper and Alyssa who already took off, and they're over in the children's library, hanging out with a couple kids over there. But we also are streaming this live online. So Evan, hi Evan. Big thanks to Evan for getting that going. And there's a link if you know somebody who couldn't make it this evening and they want to tune in, there is a link on the Engage Durango website that they can click on. So if you're getting a text message from anybody saying they can't make it, there's an opportunity there. Okay, as always, there's going to be a survey at the end. If you didn't get a chance to sign in, that just helps us to keep you informed. Also notify me who signed up for that to get notifications via email from the city. If you go to our main page, notify me, click on that, and you'll get basically automatically notified if something goes up onto the calendar. And then the Engage Durango, I feel like, who's found that one? The project page on there? Okay, great, perfect. engage.durangoco.gov. There'll be a QR code at the end. Okay, so we're gonna move right through this. I want to start with our Indigenous land acknowledgement that was recently adopted by the City of Durango, by our council. This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we are called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land we inhabit. The City of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla, Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi Sinom, Hopi, and Dene Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting general trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step toward inclusion and reconciliation. Okay. The purpose of the meeting, we're going to go into this. We are asking for input, but we first want to show the updated exterior site plan and design. From there, we're going to move into asking for input from each of you in a breakout session at the end of the presentation. And then we're going to give you an update during that presentation as well on the process for the project. So that's what we're here to do this evening. We're going to hold questions until the end unless you can't hear or something, Beth, what's going on?
I can hear. I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to speak up, those of us in the neighborhood, about our concerns with the site design, not the color of the building or anything like that.
Yes.
The site design itself.
Definitely. We'll have a table and a station back there for that, so you can really dive in.
Could we do it public?
And we'll talk about the opportunities for public comment coming up. This is just one step in this process, and all of this is going to come together, which we'll get into.
And when will the public opportunity be?
Well, there's a whole slide for that. We're going to talk through that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the concerns that we've heard from all of you in a number of different ways. So we've heard about concerns about the alley access, specifically increased traffic, congestion, and exhaust. We've heard concerns about noise, parking, lighting, snow removal, and landscaping. Those are the main concerns that seem to be consistent that we're hearing come out of the community, or at least the neighborhood. So we're going to go ahead. All of those concerns are going to be addressed in this presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, who is with Reynolds Ashton Associates, and she's going to run through the design.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Lauren Davis with Reynolds Ashton Associates. Thank you guys for coming. I do appreciate your comments and your interest in this project. Obviously, we are really excited about this. Giving a new home to Head Start is really exciting for us. So we're excited to present this project. Want to start with the site plan and go through how we got here, and hopefully address some of the questions and comments that we have heard to date, and certainly happy to continue the discussion afterwards. Obviously with the daycare facility, we have to meet certain state requirements, code requirements, but we also have to meet the City of Durango requirements. There's a land use development code that mandates certain things like setbacks, building heights, massing, etc. It also provides certain guidelines in terms of use of the site, development, etc. We also have to take into consideration things like Durango Fire, emergency vehicles. How do those vehicles and staff access this site in an emergency? So those are important things that we have to factor in. The building itself is about 7,500 square feet. That's that red rectangle that you're looking at. In terms of the site program, we also need to fit in outdoor play areas for the children, for the different classrooms. We have to look at employee parking, parent drop-off. We also have to include on this site a public parking lot. And this goes back to the original plan development with Mercy. So that's kind of a unique part of the site program that we also have to fit onto the site. Some other things to consider. We are on a corner lot. So this is East 3rd Avenue here at the bottom of the screen. This is the corner that we're talking about, and then we have an alley to the west, and then an existing residential lot to the south. So that offers, some unique opportunities as well, which goes back to the land use code and how the City of Durango treats corners. We also have to look at things like utilities. A lot of utilities running through the alley. We have an overhead power line coming through there. We have to look at trash enclosure. How does the trash and the trash pickup truck access the site? We have to consider loading and drop-off areas for when they have deliveries to the building. We have to look at sidewalks, pedestrian connections. We also have landscaping requirements, buffering requirements. All of that is sort of things that we have to work together to make this site plan work. And we worked closely with Head Start staff and the City of Durango to kind of find some optimal solutions to all of this. And then a big thing with the daycare facility, obviously, is safety and security. So there's certain things that you cannot do. You can't have parent drop off and kids walking across a public street, right? We want to contain that on the site. We want to provide safe connections. We want to provide good view corridors. Visibility is important to overall safety of the site. So all of that were things that we analyzed in this site design. And where we landed, this is the current site plan, is we pushed the building a little bit to the northeast corner. Again, it helps activate this corner. That's sort of good practice with design. We have tucked that public parking lot here to the south. And a little bit about this, again, it's tied to the plan development with Mercy, but we don't think this will actually be used all that much. Your existing lot obviously is a giant paved parking lot. It's not always used, right? This is tied to the condo development across the street, but this is a requirement, but it's also going to serve for loading and access of deliveries. So on the south side of the building, this is where we'll have primarily visitors or loading access for the building. We do have the main entry off of East 3rd Avenue. Then we have the secondary entry, which would be from the alley. This would be on the west side of the building, and this would lead directly to the employee parking area, and this lot would be for parent drop-off and pickup as well. And we also have our ADA stalls. So it's a nice, efficient design. We are utilizing the alley. That is one of the benefits of the alley, to have parking along it. The city actually does not require parking in the front. And then we have another entry off the north side of the building for visitors as well, off the sidewalk. And then we have tucked, again, the front of the building faces 3rd Avenue. We've tucked those playgrounds, which are going to be screened and fenced. Those are on the west side of the building. So those are between the parent drop-off area and the west side of the building. So general orientation. And again, we have our trash enclosure, which again is another city requirement. That is off the alley as well. The nice thing, we do have an efficient parking lot here on the west, or on the south side of the building. We are connecting to the alley. Again, it makes for easy access, and it's an efficient design. You don't have people backing up and trying to crisscross and come back to 3rd Avenue. So overall, we feel like this is an efficient site plan. And again, we have landscaping requirements. So you'll notice there's a number of street trees. Many of those are existing. And then we will have to meet additional City of Durango landscaping requirements for the site itself. Again, the current site, there's a lot of pavement, there's a lot of hard surfaces there. The current design, we're actually bringing back vegetation, bringing back some pervious surfaces, which helps with drainage, which helps with storm runoff. So you'll see we've created these little lawns. These will be landscaped pockets around the building to soften it, and again, fit into the context of the established neighborhood around it. Overall, this is a 3/4 acre site, and again, the building is about 7,500 square feet, so it's roughly a quarter of the site in terms of the footprint. And then all of our parking, we're not providing an excessive amount of parking for the building itself. This would meet the minimum requirements for employee, for staff, for drop-off. This is the additional piece, that we had to fit into the site plan, but that's again kind of separate, the public parking lot. In terms of connectivity and access, this parking lot again is used for the parent drop-off. That's pretty much 7 to 8 in the morning, and then 3 to 4 in the afternoon. So those are pretty consistent windows. And I think that drop-off usually takes 5 to 10 minutes. Again, it's Monday through Friday. I think those windows are going to be pretty consistent throughout the day. Yeah.
How many vehicles do you anticipate coming into the alley to drop off if you have 50 students now and 90 anticipated?
So
that seems to be almost 180 at the worst.
I think we had anticipated about 50 daily trips. And again, the drop-off would be the same as the pickup in the mornings.
So 100 vehicles a day, plus all those vehicles on the south parking lot that have to go out into the alley also.
Correct.
So that's another 30 or 45 vehicles going into the alley.
The capacity will not be 90. That's a number that's out there that's not accurate.
What is the capacity? What's the projected
We
capacity?
don't anticipate the capacity exceeding much of what we are now, because we're shifting from preschool to toddler care, which has smaller capacity. A toddler classroom is 8 students. And so that will reduce the capacity because of the demand that's in Durango right now for toddler care.
But that's for now, not, it's projected for 90 in the future, correct?
No,
that's what we understood.
No,
That's what was on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we can move into more of these questions. I just want to make sure, Lauren, you can keep going through the
Yes,
site plan.
but I appreciate that, but we're here because
And
we're
you'll
very
have
concerned.
that opportunity. You'll have that opportunity.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we can get you all the information before we dive into questions.
And I will say, I don't think there's an increase in terms of the number of students here from your current facility. So it's really kind of moving it across the street. It's not a huge increase in overall number of students.
I have a question about just your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little hung up when I heard you say the parking lot, public parking lot.
Correct.
As part of the Mercy development and tied to the condo project.
I'll dive into that with the parking.
So it's not the condo, it's a medical
The
building.
medical
It's,
building.
yeah,
Correct.
multiple condos, yep. We'll dive into that.
They call these condos.
And going back to safety and security, it's important to note for a daycare, drop-off is a little different, right? You can't just pull up and then open the door and your kiddo runs in. The parent has to park and then they're walking or carrying their kiddo in, because again, these are preschoolers and toddlers. So this solution, again, you have a nice, safe, secure pathway to the building that's off the street.
So, and it looks like the noise will be confined mostly behind the building, next to the houses to the west. Did you design with noise in mind?
Yeah, so some of the things these are some of the things I've been touching on. Here's a fly through. I'll kind of talk while this runs, because this is going to take a little bit. Overall, in terms of noise and lighting, we've tried to buffer that. Again, you're going to have the kiddos are out in the play areas only at certain times during the day. And you have fencing, so we have, I think, 8 to 9 foot fencing around those play areas. Then you have additional landscaping around. You have additional landscaping around the site that helps buffer that. And in general, those play areas are in the middle of the lot. So I think that will help in terms of overall buffering. And this kind of gives you an overall scale and how we've developed the site.
So why didn't you put the building back in the playgrounds on the other side?
I'll go through a couple of examples. I'll go through a couple of examples that show sort of the pros and cons and how we landed here. But in terms of overall noise, I think take Columba kind of down the street. I think you're going to have more kids. I think that's sort of a bigger source of noise and issues, which is across the street. But I think overall we're trying to buffer this as best as possible. Again, fencing, landscaping, just pulling those playgrounds to the middle of the site. And I think, again, you're going to have pretty controlled times of when they're actually out in the play area, and pretty controlled times in terms of when drop-off and pickup are happening.
Could you clarify, are you certain that there's no half-day programs, it's all one day? It's only drop off in the morning and pick up in the evening?
There's a table back here, Beth, for like all the head
So
start.
everybody here wants to know. We don't want to know.
And you can get that information through there. I just want, for the sake of time, I just want to make sure that we can make it through these site concepts.
Well, we need another meeting is what.
And there will be. This isn't the end or closing the door. So just know that there will be opportunities for public comment coming up. This one, we're going to move through the site design and the concepts so you have a clear picture of what's going on, and then jump into feedback, okay?
And keep in mind, the existing facility is right across the street. So I think that level of noise that you're hearing now, and again, it's this same number of sort of kids and density, I don't expect that to be sort of egregious, change in overall noise levels. In terms of lighting, right, again, going back to LUDC, we have to meet all dark sky ordinances. Everything will be on time clocks. Everything would be on occupant sensors in terms of the building itself. And again, they're not going to have late night events or anything after hours. So any lighting would meet dark sky ordinances. It would be very low level, minimum foot candles in terms of lighting a parking lot, lighting sidewalks, etc. Again, the current parking lot has quite a number of fixtures, if you notice. I think that would actually be reduced in terms of the height of those poles and the light pollution. So I think those issues would be mitigated in terms of noise and lighting.
I'm so sorry, just a clarification really quick. I'm sorry. This is the East-South parking, right? And then is that connected to the staff parking, the public parking lot? Because it just doesn't show. No.
This is the public parking lot. This is the trash enclosure, and then you'll see that's the
Got it.
road.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
employee
thank
parking.
you.
And then in terms of snow removal, again, I think we'll create pockets within this public lot. There's less pervious pavement, so again, I think that'll help in overall snow removal. And nothing would change in terms of the alley and maintenance. So.
Is that front of the building that looks to be like pavement where the little cars are? Is that drawn to scale?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so it could be a drop-off and pickup spot in the front of the building if that's drawn to scale with the parking.
And I think in general, again, the goal, the goal is to be in line with the established neighborhood, the overall context of design. So I think in terms of scale, our max height at those existing cupolas is 26 feet. Everything else is 20 to 24 feet, single-story building. That's nothing egregious. That's in line with other similar development out here. We're trying to complement the existing residential buildings and neighborhood. You'll notice in terms of finishes, we're using a mix of wood siding, a little bit of brick, a little bit of metal cladding. So these are elevations right here at the top. This is facing East 3rd Avenue. So you'll notice the primary entry is just a little bit taller, and it has a little cupola on it just to help kind of distinguish that entry point. But I think very attractive in terms of rhythm, scale, works with the existing neighborhood design. That red that you're seeing here is a brownish reddish metal, and then we're using timber elements to accent entries, provide covered porches, a lot of fenestration for offices and classrooms, a little bit of horizontal and vertical painted wood siding. Everything softened with landscaping that meets city code. We are going to try to preserve those giant spruces if possible. And this is sort of a pedestrian view. This would be if you're standing towards the library looking up. This would be from the Mercy Plaza, looking back southwest. This is sort of a bird's eye view that shows the alley. And again, you already have power lines running through here. We're just sort of tucking in these little alcoves for additional parking. But again, employees would be parked there during the day, but for the most part, there wouldn't be other vehicles there. And then this is that public lot that we've been referring to. But a lot of screening, a lot of sort of safety, security, buffering of those play areas. And this is from the northwest.
Could you start off by giving me
Sorry.
measurements of, I can kind of calculate in my head, like the width of that alley, like the width of the parking lot, the alley, are we talking 20 feet or?
40 feet.
Right.
The
In
existing
terms of
alley
this direction.
is 20 feet. They're going to expand it to 24 by absorbing that 4 feet into the property itself. But yeah, and we can show you, the exact numbers, all those ways that the parking.
24 feet, and then you got another 10 feet for parking? So are we talking? I'm just curious about it.
It's almost 40 foot to the fence.
Yeah,
parking
and we
stall's
have
about-
all that numbered, and measured over there.
So this is a normal parking stall.
40 feet of asphalt there.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but yeah, we can go over that.
I'd go back to the current site is all pavement. So I think, again, we're pulling back on that. We're putting back vegetation and green space. And again, I think what's so nice about this neighborhood is the walkability, the pedestrian environment. We're not taking that away. I feel like we're trying to enhance that, especially by how we're kind of locating this building. We're preserving that nice walkable feel. We're putting back green space and landscaping, which I think ultimately is a benefit. And these are standard parking stalls, obviously. So I think 18.6, 19 feet for City of Durango. This is the color material palette. Again, what I just mentioned, a little bit of brick, a couple colors of wood, a little bit of metal and timber. Again, really breaks up that facade, makes it really interesting, and works well with the existing context. So, all of your questions, we threw in a couple extra slides here. We wanted to show some of the alternate concepts, which I think is some of, Beth, what you've been asking and looking for. We did want to throw these out here for discussion, and we want to kind of counter it and show why it doesn't really work, it doesn't really meet code. So, some of the comments was, why not push it towards the alley and put a drop-off in the front? The issues with this, we don't meet our parking requirements. And again, we're not counting this because that's not part of sort of our program. But we don't meet parking requirements. This building, again, this would be the front. The front of the building's here, this is the backside with the play areas. On 3rd Avenue, you'd be looking at sort of the fencing and the backside of the building, and the code does not, the land use code doesn't want you to put the front of your building on the alley. That's not the intent of the alley. And again, with fire access, you have power lines. That would create issues, and that wouldn't be allowed by them. So there's issues with this. And here we're...
Can you clarify, are you saying that the fire department tells you you cannot put a building close to an alley?
Well, they're gonna provide comments. Ultimately, we're referring to the land use
Yes.
code.
You can build.
But, yeah.
Yes, the fire department says that, they did that. You have to provide the fire department access, and access for the alley would not be allowed by the fire department. They would deny this project.
So the access for the
So
building
let's,
can come
can
from
we,
3rd Avenue?
we are prepared to talk about all this when we break out, if we can finish the presentation, and I'm happy to go over all of this with you.
Yeah, so again, loss of green space, there's more pavement here, you're reducing some of those other benefits. And then here was, I apologize, I'm not as familiar with this. Here is another option where we've preserved the front of the building here, facing 3rd Avenue. We've put those play areas to the back. But again, very similar issues in that we're not meeting the parking requirements. There's more pavement in this solution. And again, sort of there's other issues there. But we can discuss those, but we want to at least show that those were factored in. We did look at them. But we do feel like the current design is the optimal design.
But may I ask, how many parking spaces are you shy for both designs? You're saying they don't meet what the first one does?
I'd have to look at that, yeah.
8 parking stalls short.
For both designs?
Both of the 2 alternates that Warren just showed you, yes.
But that's a quick overview. And again, we're really happy to get more into the weeds and go through some of those talking points at the stations.
We have a little bit more to get through in the presentation. We're going to turn it over to Lily. I just ask that you hold your questions, but we're going to get there, just so we can make it through the presentation and still have, I just want to make sure we have a lot of time for back here so you can really dive into a lot of the questions that you have. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're here to answer questions.
And we're here to get feedback.
And we're here to get feedback. And I think, so I'm Lily Oswald, and with the Community Development Department, I'm a planner. I'm one of the planners working on this project. I recognize a lot of you here today, but also excited to see some new faces. Just to back up a tiny bit from a bit higher level of, for those of you who haven't been here at every meeting, and without diving into all of the details, this is a city-owned parking lot currently. Where we're standing used to be Mercy Medical Center, which is now the library. When the city took ownership of this property, the adjacent parking lot right over there in front of that condominiumization, which is a lot of professional buildings where Access Health used to be, the Tri-County Head Start existing facility site and the site we're talking about tonight, that was in 2007. There was a lot of community feedback on what we're calling a plan development. So that Mercy plan development, which is a plat, so it's first and foremost a subdivision plat. It also has an agreement, which is a very lengthy legal document, which has a variety of different elements in there. A couple of those, and again, it precedes me in my time here with the city, but what we've heard, it was a very lengthy process of several years of negotiations with the neighborhood and with the city and with other property owners to figure out what went in there in terms of allowed future uses. Because with this site, the city and the neighborhood anticipated that it would someday potentially be developed. And so with those anticipated allowed uses, this is one of them. So childcare is an allowed use, but it's considered a special use within that plan development agreement, which is a pretty typical thing within the city too, and we planners get a lot of special use permits. And I'll go into that process very high level in a moment here, but so that's one of the reasons we're looking at this. And the city was soliciting concepts for this site, and since that process evolved and has gone through a lot of meetings and we've heard a lot of feedback,
Some of that has been about landscaping and having gardening areas here. So we are here to solicit some feedback because we want to hear how we can still involve those concepts and those elements in a way that really activates and works upon the existing beautiful landscaping in this area, the park areas, the walkability, like Lauren mentioned, while also allowing safety and security and all that good stuff for a childcare facility. And we also have some site activation elements. There's a few kind of random icons there, but really that's to say, if this is here, what are some ways we can have it be enjoyable for the neighborhood too, not just for the folks who are dropping their kids off and the kids who are actually using this facility or working there. So can we do some informational signage? We have some great examples right out the window here of how they did that with the library and the botanical garden. But is that something you all want to see here? And if so, where? What does that look like? So just some ideas, benches, public furniture, things like that. And then Lauren went over some external materials and color concepts. So just getting your feedback on how that works. They tried to make this blend in with existing uses and structures within this established neighborhood of East Pathfinder. But also we want your feedback on what they've proposed, because right now this is what this is a proposal. And then those buffering areas she mentioned. So we have that south single family dwelling unit just next door at 1915. So some buffering options. We've heard from people who helped plant and care for the once, I don't know if it was fully surrounding, but a lot of lilac bushes on the existing Tri-County Head Start facility, if that's something memorable that you guys want to, see some more lilac, so just stuff like that. And then we've talked about too, the Land Use and Development Code. It does involve requirements for parking stalls. We also have engineering standards within our municipal code for right-of-way widths, and that's the alley, that's the street, that's the public sidewalk, all that good stuff. And then there's also an added layer of complexity, which is above me, but through the state, for standard and certified childcare facilities. There are a lot of standards that they need to see. So that speaks to the security and safety component, but that's also the drop-off areas and things like that.
Does this mean, like that we're talking, it kind of feels like we're packing for a vacation before we've decided where we're going. And like, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I feel like a lot of us are here tonight because we're concerned about the alley's impact on our neighbors. And I'm worried that this means that the alley access and pouring over 100 cars into the alley every day is a done deal. Is that correct?
So like Lauren was showing, what we have on a lot of these boards and what we're calling is, the site plan for tonight's meeting and what's on the Connect Engage page, that is not the first plan that they've come up with. It's not the first plan we've seen originally in this bid, which came in February. It's not anything like that. We've come back with some feedback of we need to meet this parking requirement, which is in a bit of a technical detail, but that's in that plan development agreement from 2007. The city committed to hundreds of spaces, which I can share those details if anyone's really curious at the parking table, but that's just one of the boxes we have to check. With the alley piece, we're working carefully again with Durango Fire Protection District, with the engineering team, and with these different concepts and ways that we've tried to work this facility in while also preserving safety and security for kiddos. The alley access piece is the piece that made the most sense for fire access and for safety and security drop-off.
But you need to answer the question, yes or no.
Is it
That's the yes or no
Well,
question.
let's jump into the process.
No, yeah, and these are just
Yes or no answer to the question.
no. The process will answer that a bit. So we're here. We have a neighborhood meeting. It's kind of hard to see these fine vertical lines, but this is a bit of a timeline. This is kind of truncated just because we're looking forward to a few months, and a lot of these dates, which are the purple pieces there, are dependent on applicants, so they could change. But these are the anticipated next steps and opportunities for public comment. So neighborhood meeting here tonight, October. After the feedback received with some landscaping elements, with different parking, with all these different things that we'll talk about at these tables, Reynolds Ash and Associates will wrap up those comments and the feedback received into what the city will actually use for those permit applications. So they will apply for two separate things, and this is just sort of the fussy details of the city process, as well as the process spelled out in that county development agreement.
I can't read the print from that?
Yeah, I'll read it for you. The top one is special use permit. Actually, I'll step back to these slides. I've seen a lot of people kind of squinting. We will post these to the Connect Engage page too. We just got these finally formatted about 10 minutes before you guys came. So the special use permit, again, this is an allowed use by right for the site, period. But that special use permit is required just because it's a defined special use. So that special use permit application will be submitted to the city by the applicants. That will include one of those signs that you guys have seen that are stamped into the ground. And on that sign, it has a time frame for comments. So that's one piece of public notice, and that's required for our land use and development code. So there's a public comment opportunity there. That's just mostly commenting, but it gives you, who to contact and by what date. They'll also submit, and these can be run at the same time. That's why they're on top. A minor site plan application. So that's just an additional land use application, and that will be submitted to the city. Both of these are typically just processed by staff, meaning planners. And with this minor site plan, we route that for engineering comments, for Durango Fire Protection District, for occasionally Parks and Rec, depending on trees and landscaping, for their expertise on those things. And then all of those comments are bundled in planning comments, building comments. And those are all bundled and brought back to the applicant, and then they have to make changes, and it kind of can be cyclical. So sometimes there's a few rounds of changes that have to be made. But again, typically that's just staff. That's just done in-house. But we're adding an extra step. Again, this is all anticipated, but potentially February, of bringing that to the Community Development Commission for their review of the minor site plan. Actually, I think this was truncated. That might be January. So in January, the Community Development Commission, which acts as the city's planning commission, will do a review of this site plan. They won't be a deciding body because that's not how it's defined in our code. But at that public meeting, which is publicly noticed, and we can get that date out to you when we know when this all happens, that will be a public comment opportunity for that review body. And that body is about 7 people with a pretty diverse background of expertise. So they'll probably have quite a breadth of comments themselves. And then all of our comments, all of engineering comments, all of fire department comments are all wrapped up and brought back to the applicant. They put the finishing touches on all of the conditions we spell out, all that good stuff, and then they submit finally for that building permit. And then running all the way here to, there's Connect Engage, so I'll keep plugging it because it's where we're going to keep uploading materials and all that. So the Connect Engage page will continue to be a forum for updates after tonight's meeting, depending on some if there are some contextual things that we want extra feedback on, we could put that on there too as a poll. So just ongoing kind of rolling options there, as well as just your typical email us, call us, and set meetings. But that is sort of a high level overview of some upcoming opportunities for engagement, as well as what they'll have to do for the next 2 months.
And that's in addition to council meetings. So you're always welcome to show up to council meetings and provide public comment there. So that's always an option as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's his question. Sure, let's go for it.
Bill.
Well, first of all, thank you, Laura, for a great looking plan. I know you put a lot of work into it. But I'm intrigued by one comment you made, the intent of an alley. What is, within the city's regulations, what is an alley? Are there restrictions on traffic? Because it almost looks like this alley is becoming a street.
Yep.
And that's, I think that's the nub of everything here tonight. The alley.
I hear you, and I would maybe agree that's a big hub. We have our city engineer here with us tonight too to help answer those questions at the parking table, and it's a big piece. We as planners.
Now, if we can just move through this is a smaller group tonight, and then everybody has different ideas and concerns that they want to talk about, and I want to honor that and respect that. And so I just don't want
The
one
problem with
thing to
dividing us
dominate.
up is then we don't hear what everybody else is saying.
And you can stay at each table, like whatever you're most concerned about if you want
You
to.
have different subjects at
And you
different
all can
tables.
move together through the tables if you want to.
Why doesn't the table come up here and talk to us?
And part of the reason this is designed the way it is, we had originally planned for a meeting like this, the charrette kind of, I mean, I'm a planner, I'll call it fun, the fun type of meetings where we want to hear feedback from you guys, and typically it's, it is those kind of like the sprinkles on top of, do you want to see murals here? What about interactive public art? Do you want to see some botanical garden things? But we weren't ready to have that meeting with the neighborhood from what we were hearing from you months ago. So we tabled it. We haven't done that, and I think that was a good call. And during those meetings too, we also heard that you guys want to be involved with the design process and give us your feedback, and that's a big reason we've designed it to be this way today. We've also heard from a lot of folks who don't feel comfortable communicating in this forum. And so we are trying to give an opportunity for more of a one-on-one. So there's a lot of elements involved, but that's a big reason why it's trying to be kind of equal there too.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we allow for enough time to be able to do that, for everybody to be able to voice their concerns and have these conversations. And so
There isn't enough time. And what was your answer, yes or no, to this question that was posed to you over here?
Can you repeat the question?
I think the question was about, like, is this the site plan?
This is our latest conceptual site plan that we've received from the applicant and the one that we are soliciting feedback on.
Is it subject to being changed after we give our input?
Right, like I said, all this input is going to be wrapped into, do we have a laser? Yeah. These permit applications, which will have those finalized plans.
So
yes, and that's why we're having this meeting now, before they've submitted any final plans.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging.
Happy to be here.
All right.
I think the next slides are you. I will.
Bill asked what the definition of an alley is, so it seems to me that alleys are different than streets.
Mm-hmm.
But now the alley somehow becomes a street.
Keith, raise your hand back there. This is Keith. Talk to Keith about that. All right, come on up, Keith. We're eating into the feedback time though, which is my concern as the community engagement specialist. I'm concerned.
Hi everybody, I'm Keith Doherty, I'm the city engineer. And yes, we work with planning closely with these submittals that come through, and engineering gets a chance to comment. We will look at traffic, and that is one of the things that comes into this, right? Different blocks have different uses, and a typical, let's say, residential property has 10 to 15 homes on it. Homes generate about 10 trips a day, so you're hitting 150 to 200 trips a day on a block, right? So we're going to look at some of those things as we look at this alley. So alleys are lower classification. They're not technically a street. So they are below local street classification. So yes, we will look at that traffic and how it affects the block, excuse me, the block and the traffic around that whole street system. Does that help?
You looked at it, and what did you decide? That's our question.
So we don't have the full trips, because they're just estimates of what the trips are coming to and from the buildings right now. So we don't have a submittal that we've gone through in detail yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Keith. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the breakout session where you can visit information tables back here. And I want to take the time to have folks introduce themselves who are in the room, so you know who to speak with about your concerns or questions, or if you want to learn more. So we're going to take the time to go around the room, and then when you introduce yourself back there, if you could post up at your info table, and so folks know where to go to find you, and let them know what table you're at. We have a table for materials and color concepts, landscaping, parking, and then a general questions and Tri-County Head Start general information. So I'm going to pass the mic around. You met the three of us already. You met Evan. I'm going to pass it back here.
Could we have a table for site location and talk more with Lauren or the architect about that?
Yeah, that'll be over here.
That'll be right over there with Tracy.
Hello, I'm Daniel Murray, also with the landscaping table.
Where is the landscaping table?
Landscaping table with Daniel.
Sunshine, this is the general questions and Tri-County Head Start specific and general dash.
I'm Daniel Osborne, I'm with Tri-County Head Start. And yeah, if you've got any questions on it, we'll be here to answer them.
Tracy Reynolds, Architects.
Marie Wilson, I'm the director at the center.
Lisa Stone, I'm the executive director for Tri-County Head Start.
I'm Board Heroy, I'm chairman of the board for Head Start.
Okay, is that everybody who wants to introduce themselves? Okay. We're gonna break out into the info session. I do have a next slide. Before you leave tonight, there is a QR code that I'm gonna put up here for the Engage Durango website. Woo. And then also a survey. Somehow I have a calculator up here. A survey for how we did. So you can tell us how we did with a quick survey. I'll also have it set up on the iPads back here if you would prefer to do it that way. But we're always looking to improve. This is where, like, how we craft our engagement efforts is through feedback like this. And then the Engage Durango website, click that follow button. There's a green follow button up in the banner on the top of the project page. And then that way you get updates when things go up to that site. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate you being here and listening, and we are looking forward to listening to you some more.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. And don't